All right, ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? What's going on? It's Thursday. You know what that means. It's time to crank things up and bring you the latest and greatest from the world of football outside of the NFL. It's time for On the Mark. Let's go.
On the Mark with Young Mark is brought to you by the Real to Sports Podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of On the Mark. I am your host, Young Mark. Without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into it, man. We're nearing the end of the regular season of the United Football League. We're going into Week 9 coming up. But before we get to Week 9, let's go over what happened in Week 8. Starting things off, I can't say it's his fault, but I know host is somewhere laughing right now. Stop me if you heard this before, but Luis Perez has lost another game. The Arlington Renegades fell this past weekend to the San Antonio Brahmas. Final score of 20-15. I really don't know what else to say, ladies and gentlemen. It's not Luis Perez's fault. Shout out to Gene Snitsky, former WWE superstar, but it's not Luis's fault. He finished the day 22 of 33. 209 yards and 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. But it's really hard to win football games when your leading rusher only has 38 yards on the ground. That's not a good day. Arlington has had no running game. They haven't had a dog really step up at receiver outside of tight end Sal Cannella, who I think is definitely going to be on an NFL roster. Excuse me, come this fall. He was the leading receiver on the team. He finished the day 9 catches, 87 yards, and a touchdown. Quentin Dormady, the quarterback for the San Antonio Brahmas, he had a pretty good day also. He went 17 to 25, 320, and 2 touchdowns. San Antonio's rolling, and thanks to a game we're going to get into a little bit later, they have officially punched their ticket to the XFL championship game this year. They went from being the second worst team in the XFL last year to now being in the championship game that's going on in 3 weeks. They will be taking on the St. Louis Battlehawks. For more on that in a moment. Moving right along to another game. We mentioned last week that the USFL championship game was clinched. That's going to be between Michigan and Birmingham down the road. Michigan proved this week, again, why they are deserving to be in that championship game. They handled business against the Memphis Showboats, winning their game 24-18. Bryce Perkins was the player of the game for me in this one. That name might sound familiar if you're a LA Rams fan or if you watched some Rams games last year. When Matthew Stafford got hurt about a year ago or so, Bryce Perkins stepped in and started for him, got some NFL experience. Now he's coming to the UFL with Michigan and all the injuries they've had at quarterback this year. He played pretty well, went 7-9, over 100 yards through the air and a touchdown. He also had 55 rushing yards. He was electric, both through the air and on the ground with his feet. And he helped propel Michigan to that 24-18 win. It's been a really rough season for Memphis, especially for Case Cookus. He went from being a part of one of the better teams in the USFL with the Philadelphia Stars to now, man, he's just kind of floundering with the Memphis Showboats. Been a very tough year for them. They only had 1 win on the season. And again, not hard to see why. Case Cookus went 10 of 16 for 179 yards and a touchdown. He had 1 interception on the day. But the most disappointing part of the stat line for me, ladies and gentlemen, especially being a former offensive lineman myself, when your leading rusher is a former USFL League MVP, and he finishes the day leading the team in rushing with only 33 yards, it's not going to cut it on any level of football. You cannot win a game with only 33 yards rushing. That's not good. He only averaged 3 yards a carry on 11 attempts. And Memphis has been plagued by offensive line issues, and that's kind of been the recurring theme for some of the teams struggling in the UFL this year outside of Arlington. You really, really have to have a good offensive line. I know some people like to say, well, it's an offensive lineman. They grow on trees. You can find them, plug them, and play them. Memphis is showing that is not the case. They have not had any protection all year, and they are definitely struggling because of it. Now, to another game. I expected this game to be a blowout. I ain't gonna lie to you. I called it out on Saturday. I'm like, Birmingham about to mop the floor with Houston. Houston came to play. One thing that I do love about the UFL is that even though these teams are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, they're still going out there and still playing their butts off. Unlike in the NFL, team is eliminated. Guys start taking plays off. They start half-assing it. You don't really see the effort. But for these guys in the UFL, trying to get a shot and go to the NFL and continue their football careers, they're going at it no matter what the record is, no matter what week it is, and you love to see it. Houston gave Birmingham all they could handle, but they fell short, losing that game 35-28.
Yeah.
Yes, Birmingham is still undefeated. They have yet to lose a game. They are 8-0 on the year. Pains me to say that, but it's the truth. You gotta acknowledge the truth. This was Adrian Martinez's coming out party. He had a phenomenal day. 5 total touchdowns. He had 3 through the air, 2 on the ground. He had 173 passing yards. He had 1 interception, but it really wasn't his fault. The ball went through the hands of the receiver. So really outside of that, he had a very, very good game.
Yeah.
And I have to admit, I think he's probably locked up the MVP award. If I had a vote, it would go to Jake Bates, the kicker from Michigan. But as we've seen in other football leagues, MVP is a quarterback award, and he is definitely proven to be the best quarterback in the UFL this year. And I definitely think he's going to be on an NFL roster next year. Now, getting to a game that was very personal for me, and honestly, a game that was very unpredictable going into it. You had the St. Louis Battlehawks, fresh off of their defeat at the hands of the number 1 team in spring football, the Birmingham Stallions. Yeah, I've said it. St. Louis bounced back from their defeat at Birmingham to beat my DC Defenders 26-21. What's interesting about this game is they did it without many of their star players. They had no Marcel Aitman from the Oklahoma State University. Go Pokes. Shout out my boy. They also did it without their quarterback, A.J. McCarron. And starting in A.J. McCarron's place is one of the better feel-good stories of spring football. It's why you love leagues like the United Football League to just give dudes a chance. Former undrafted free agent Manny Wilkins stepped in for A.J. McCarron at quarterback, and he played great. He went 9 of 18 through the air for over 100 yards. He was really electric with his feet. He had 12 carries for 79 yards. He didn't wow you, like he didn't have like an Adrian Martinez type day, but he kept plays alive. He kept DC's defense guessing. Greg Williams really had no answer for him, especially on crucial like third downs in that game. Manny Wilkins definitely didn't show any signs of rust. Again, this being his first start since 2018 when he was at Arizona State. He played really well. My Defenders, I know you don't award moral victories, but I got to stand up and salute my team. They really had not too much to play for. They weren't mathematically eliminated yet going into this game, but they've been ravaged by injuries on offense and defense this year, going up against a juggernaut like St. Louis, and they did not flinch. They hung in there with St. Louis the entire game, but unfortunately this came down to bad turnovers at bad times. Jordan Ta'amu had 2 interceptions on the day, and that kind of is what sealed our fate and eventually eliminated us from the postseason. So there will not be a chance for DC to avenge their title game loss from last year. They are out. So the 2 conference championship games going into the next 2 weeks, they're going to have St. Louis versus San Antonio in St. Louis right now because St. Louis is the top seed. And then in the USFL conference, you got Birmingham versus Michigan. What are these teams playing for? Host, can you show them the newly unveiled United Football League trophy? There it is, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, you got to be quicker than that. There it is. That is the newly unveiled trophy for the United Football League. I love the design. I don't know who The Rock and them get to design their trophies, but they're always on point. That's what's going to be up for grabs in about 3 weeks, ladies and gentlemen, on June the 10th. It's going to be very interesting to see who gets to play for it. St. Louis and San Antonio is going to be a very great matchup, and I'm excited to see it. And I know Host is probably punching his ticket to St. Louis, probably got a hotel picked out and everything.
Yeah.
But don't sleep on Michigan, man. Michigan is getting their act together. I think Bryce Perkins is going to be the spark plug that they need. They barely lost to Birmingham the last time, so I think. Oh, don't boo me. Are you guys Stallion fans or Steeler fans? I can't tell the way you guys are doing me, but yeah, I think Michigan might be able to catch Birmingham slipping if Birmingham isn't careful. They've been tested here down the stretch ever since that DC game. They haven't been blowing teams out, haven't been dominating them, but they have been coming away with the victories, and they are undefeated. Should Birmingham win this week in Week 9, they will lock up the number 1 seed. Same thing for St. Louis. They win this weekend against the Renegades. They will lock up the number 1 seed as well for their respective conference. So St. Louis wins, ladies and gentlemen. That they not only get to host the XFL Conference Championship game, but they'll also get to host the UFL Championship game. So if you can imagine, Birmingham, if they win, has to go on the road to play a hometown St. Louis crowd who is yet to have a game under 30,000 people in attendance. Boy, if that's not a big fight field, I don't know what is. But going into Week 9, the second to last week of the regular season, we have 12 noon on Saturday. We got St. Louis taking on Arlington. I expect St. Louis to win that game because Arlington, again, is just missing too many pieces. But shouldn't be a cakewalk, though. Luis Perez, host's favorite quarterback of all time, will put up a fight. But in the end, I got the Battlehawks winning that game. Also on Saturday, you have Birmingham. It's going to be interesting. I don't know if host's going to be sweating a little bit, but at 3 p.m. on Saturday, Birmingham goes to San Antonio to take on Wade Phillips and the surging San Antonio Brahmas. That game is really going to be too close to call right now. Hey, you can laugh all you want. Would you rather get your loss out of the way in the regular season, or do you want to lose when it matters the most in the championship? I'm just saying. San Antonio's been a really good team this year, and I think they're going to give Birmingham another strong fight and another challenge. So we'll see if Birmingham can come out the victors. And then on Sunday, you got Michigan taking on the Houston Roughnecks and DC taking on the Memphis Showboats. I got both road teams in those games, Michigan and DC, coming out with the victory. But we'll see how it goes. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, we're winding down the UFL season. The semifinals start June 18th, and then we have the championship game going down June the 15th. June the 10th. I'm sorry, getting my dates mixed up. June the 10th is when we're going to have that championship game. It's going to be 8 p.m. on Fox. So look forward to seeing that. See who gets to become the new United Football League champion. See if Birmingham can complete the three-peat. But elsewhere, before we get out of here, unfortunately, this week I don't have any Arena Football League news. So I guess in their case, no news is good news. They're staying out of the headlines now that Lee Hutton is gone. But this next Thursday, June the 6th, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the Canadian Football League, our neighbors to the north, they kick off their regular season, and it's going to be a rematch of this past year's Grey Cup, which is the Canadian equivalent of the Super Bowl. You got the Montreal Alouettes going on the road to take on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Again, that's Thursday, June the 6th at 8:30. Should be a really good game to kick off the Canadian Football League season. And, of course, I will bring you the news, stats, and highlights right here on the Mark, where we bring you the latest and greatest from the world outside of football. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me this week. I will see you guys next week for more spring football coverage. I'm out of here, folks. Y'all have a good one.
On the Mark with Young Mark is brought to you by the Real to Sports Podcast.